Okay, so how are things going for you?
Things are going really well. I'm really excited about where we are. I think we've been able to really pick up momentum. I think the momentum's all with us, and in this game, you got to focus a lot more on interval change than on where we are. And we've been 100 days out, and we've got all the momentum, all the excitement, a lot of buzz. So I like where we are, and frankly, it's because we're running a people-oriented, energetic, community-driven kind of campaign. A lot of people in rooms like this like to talk about grassroots. We're actually doing it, and we know elections aren't won here. Elections are won in salons and in town halls and in UAW halls all across the state, and that's where we're going. So 30 different counties, 60 cities, hundreds of rooms, signing up more than 50% of everybody who comes to hear me speak to volunteer for the campaign. So I like where we are.
What do you think about Mark Hackles talking about he's getting in? How do you think that affects the race, affects you at all, if at all?
I don't really pay attention to other people in the race, right? It's I think the metaphor of a race is a pretty good one because everybody knows if you run a race and start looking over to the right and your left, right, you're not going to win. Focus on your own stride and keep going forward. So that's what we're doing. I know why I'm running, and that's because I believe in people and I believe in a politics that's bigger than this moment of fear, and I think there's a responsibility for us to get out and to talk about what government can be for people and by people rather than for corporations and by corporations.
You say moment of fear, what do you mean?
Look, 2016 was driven by cynicism, and that was driven by a couple of individuals who were able to leverage a lot of implicit fear about a world that we live in right now, and use that to propel themselves to the highest ranks of power. That culture of fear tells us that we can't see eye to eye with people who see the world differently than we do. That we can't bridge regional or racial or religious divides, and it forces us back into our own echo chambers where we hear only people who think like us. And this is a moment right now where, as I've traveled the state, people are talking about the same issues. Whether you're talking about a single mom raising 2 or 3 kids in Northeast Detroit, or a mom raising 2 or 3 kids in Northeast Michigan, talking about the same things, right? I feel locked out of my economy. I feel my kids aren't getting a good education in their school. I'm worried about what's going to happen to my healthcare. The Great Lakes, what are we going to do about them? The fact that people are just poisoning our atmosphere, the air that our babies breathe, and the water that we drink. What's going on there? And if we're willing to realize that actually we're talking about the same problems, and that those problems have ultimately important solutions, then I think we can unite around it.
And what are some of the solutions that you're proposing to some of these problems?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in terms of an economy, we have to build a 21st century economy. Right now, Michigan has always played by a playbook that tells us that we have to bend over backwards to accommodate large corporations, and we got to keep giving them tax cut and tax break after tax cut and tax break. And then all they're doing is they're automating and offshoring their jobs, right? And so we can't rely on them to create the jobs of the future. We have to be focused on small business. We have to be focused on the kinds of jobs that aren't going to get offshored or automated. We have to be thinking about what we can do to keep Michiganders here and working. So that's critical when it comes to schools. I personally inspected the schools in Detroit, and I know that those school buildings, aren't up to speed, not where they ought to be, right? And it's largely because we don't have a system of being able to fund school buildings across our state. So we got to get that right. We have to invest in schools again. That includes K through 12 and higher ed. We have to create the means for young people graduating high school to both be ready for college and be ready to go take a great job in the skilled trades. And then we have to move forward on universal pre-K, right? Kids, we know that kids' minds are most fertile at 3 to 5, and we have to be building those minds early. When it comes to the environment, right, we have to stop bending over backwards for corporations that burn stuff into the atmosphere that puts smoke and soot in our kids' lungs and ultimately contributes to climate change. There's a better way forward, and that's focusing on things like solar and wind, and those things. The thing about them is that we sit on some of the world's best engineering and manufacturing talent, right? And we can put those folks to work doing that kind of work. And then we need universal health care for Michigan. That's just it, right? And the reason we need it is because we keep worrying about the shenanigans in Washington, where 50% of Detroiters, for example, could lose their health care. And I'm not going to let that happen on my watch as a doctor. So those are some of the things that we need to be doing. We need to get smart, we need to get bold, and we need to embrace the fact that we can only solve our problems together, right? If we keep bending to these sort of shenanigans of part-time legislature, et cetera, just cut government, right? Everybody knows if you go shop in the bargain basement aisle, you get bargain basement stuff. So if we want bargain basement government, then we'll get bargain basement government. And I don't believe in bargain basement government. I believe in government that's efficient, effective, and that works for people. So that's what we're proposing.
And one of the, I don't know if you had a chance to go, there was a forum yesterday about the funding of Michigan cities and how that needs to change. And one of the points that was brought up was basically challenging the narrative in terms of Michigan's comeback in terms of jobs. I mean, saying that the comeback is not really there as much as it was.
Yeah, I agree with that. Michigan's, there has not been a real comeback. It's playing with numbers. Because if you look at labor participation, if you look at real wages for families, they're either stagnant or down. And people feel that, right? People feel that pinch, whether you're talking about families in Detroit or families in Kalkaska, right? And they feel it, and it's a responsibility for us to put those folks truly back to work. Because a lot of folks have been locked out of our economy since the recession, and we gotta figure out a way to make this an inclusive, equitable opportunity for everybody.
When you say truly back to work, what do you mean?
What I mean is that people have gotten so sick of looking for jobs, they stopped looking, and I mean back to work for jobs that are going to be there, that provide great benefits and provide a living wage, and you don't have to worry about losing it every other quarter, right? Because your employer is going up and down in their stock price. So that's what truly back to work is.
Right. In Detroit and in other areas as well, there's still the issue of I guess what they call employability. Folks who look for a job that are not quite available. How do you address that moving forward?
So I think there's a couple things. Number one, we know that our public education system is bust. We have to fix that. That's critical, right? The second thing is any student graduating from high school should graduate both with the means of going to college and with the means of going into the trades. And that means being able to build those skills while we have students in K through 12, so they know that when they graduate, they can either go and get a job, or after one more year of training, they're ready to have a job. And then we have to also do some things around the way that we screen people for jobs, right? We know a lot of particularly young black men would be able members of the workforce if something in their history didn't stop them, right? So I don't believe in check boxes. I think we need to give every person a great opportunity to be a part of the workforce, and we have to solve that. And that's a administrative issue.
Right. How has the conference been for you?
I'm a lot more interested in getting in rooms around the state than I am in this room. The problem with our politics is that too many decisions are made in rooms like these. I'm a lot more interested in talking to real people. I'm here really to share my insights about what they're telling me, and learn a little bit more from some of the experts who are here. But I don't do backroom relaying dealing. I'm 32, brown and Muslim. These rooms haven't been so kind to people like me.
Following up on that, because other people I've spoken with said the same thing. I spoke to Rip Rapsy not too long ago and talking about the way, the conference is trying to change a little bit. I don't know about 10 years, but at the same time, you look at obviously the complexion of the conference in terms of who's here and who's not.
That's right.
And there may be a few more African Americans, but in terms of Arabs and Muslims, you may be. But I mean, is that probably when we look at it, this attracting the business community, et cetera, and Arab and Muslim contribution to the business community, you don't see that reflected here. What does that say?
Well, there's a particular kind of business and a way of doing business that's reflected in rooms like this, and I think a lot of the disruption in business has come from communities of color, and that's important. And I think the other people who aren't represented in rooms like this are many times folks who run small businesses in rural Michigan. So whether it's Detroit or Grand Rapids or rural Michigan, a lot of folks aren't represented here.
Right.
And to me, it's important that any conversation about the future is inclusive and representative. So this is not. I feel like over time, our society gets better when less and less is decided in rooms like this.
Right. Anything else at all you want to add, or let people know about your campaign?
Look, we're running the most energetic, people-focused, exciting campaign out there. We are already knocking doors. That's because we really truly believe in grassroots and getting out to real people, right? People vote, right? And as far as I'm concerned, there are only about 1,600 votes in this room, right? And we have an opportunity, if we don't like the status quo, to vote against it in the future, and and that's what I offer. So I'm really excited about our campaign. I'm excited about where we are. I'm excited about the potential for us, and I hope to see that happen.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Take care.
Thanks.